Olá, essa é mais uma edição do programa Um Passeio pelo Céu. O programa de hoje nós vamos apresentar um programa especial sobre a vinda do astronauta Buzz Aldrin aqui a campus, e dessa vez nós vamos apresentar o depoimento que ele deu durante a coletiva de imprensa realizada na Academia Campista de Letras. Então nós vamos poder apresentar toda o que aconteceu durante essa coletiva de imprensa. Nós vamos ter todos os depoimentos do Dr. Buzz Aldrin, para poder apresentar durante todo o programa. E aqui tem uma imagem mostrando o Dr. Buzz Aldrin e sua esposa na cerimônia que houve no Jardim São Benedito, né? E aqui é a coletiva de imprensa e depois o encontro com os jovens lá na Academia Campista de Letras. Gostaria de agradecer ao Instituto Brasil e Estados Unidos, o IBEL, né, que foi quem realizou aqui de Campos, de Goitacazes, foi quem realizou a tradução, né, aqui o endereço dele, né, www.ibelcampus.com.br. Agradeço bastante, né, sem esse apoio não seria possível a gente poder apresentar agora, né, essa tradução tão longa, né, como foi realizada pelo IBEL. Então agradeço toda a equipe do IBEL, principalmente ao professor Douglas, né, quem foi o responsável por apoiar essa iniciativa, né, e permitir que a gente pudesse apresentar aqui a tradução, né. E aqui então está o Dr. Buzz Aldrin durante o evento. Então vamos acompanhar agora o que aconteceu durante essa coletiva de imprensa, o depoimento do Dr. Buzz Aldrin.
The launch of Sputnik surprised many people around the world, and we, the United States, I believe, felt that we were being challenged. At the time, in 1957, there were bombers loaded with nuclear weapons in both. So I think in the United States we felt we were falling behind in technical education, so we needed some inspiration for our nation, our workforce, to demonstrate the capabilities that we felt we had in the face of a Soviet placing a satellite in orbit and clearly intending to put humans into space. So we accepted the challenge of also putting humans into orbit. In April of 1961, Yuri Gagarin made one orbit of the Earth, and our manned space program had not advanced yet to the point of doing more than suborbital flights. It wasn't until February of 1962 that we were able to put John Glenn in orbit. So from April to May, our nation considered what we could do as a goal, objective, and with the advice of many technical people in studies that had been done about the possibility of going to the moon, our president challenged our nation within the decade to send a man to the moon and bring him back safely. We did not know whether the Russians would respond to our challenge of ourselves to go to the moon. That required intelligence trying to understand what they were doing, because their program was kept very secret, whereas our Mercury program with one astronaut, and then the Gemini program with 2 astronauts, that led up to the middle part, 1967, to begin to fly 3 people in Apollo. The Apollo fire in January of 1967 killed 3 of our astronauts, including a very close friend of mine, Ed White. There was some consideration of terminating, but most people wanted to go ahead with Apollo, so we revised things, and since it looked as though the Russians might send a cosmonaut around the moon and back, not stopping, but around the moon, we advanced our Apollo program to send Apollo 8, the second Apollo flight, the first one on the big Saturn V rocket. We boldly sent that mission at Christmas time in 1968 to orbit the moon. It was the beginning of 1969, and the lander had not yet even flown, and we committed to land on the moon before the end of 1969. So we tested the lander in Earth orbit, and then in lunar orbit, and then we in Apollo 11 were given the assignment of making an attempt to land on the moon in July of 1969, which you all know from your books, history books, that we succeeded very well, and you can even see the lander in some of the photographs taken recently in orbit. You can see the lander that we left on the moon. The entire nation was very much behind us. The entire world was thrilled at the success that we achieved, and I think we were determined to obtain the most out of our investment, whether the Russians were going to attempt to land humans or not, and we proceeded to land 5 more times, despite Apollo 13 having to come back from landing. It was a very exciting and thrill to be assigned to that crew, and we trained very intensely, we were asked 1 month before if we wanted to have more time to train. And it was because the very large Russian rocket had blown up on the launch pad. We didn't know that at the time, but we said, no, we will go ahead and fly in July. Most everything went very well according to the plan. As Neil Armstrong and I were separate from the command module Columbia, we came around the front of the moon, and our communications was rather poor with the Earth, and we were afraid we might have to go around again and try it once more. But the communication worked out. We started the engine to slow down, and we continued to slow down from orbit. We yawed around to pick up the landing radar, and shortly after that, we began to get some computer alarms indicating that our computer was being overloaded. As long as the spacecraft was flying properly and the computer looked like it was working, we were all ready to go. And we were pleased when Houston and the control center gave us the clearance to continue on despite some of these alarms. But it did distract us a little bit from seeing just where we were going. As we got down closer, Neil could see rocks in front of us, not too good, of fuel left. We landed successfully and accomplished the checking of the spacecraft and began putting on the backpacks and the necessary things to go outside on the lunar surface. The decision that the commander would be the first to go out was made about 6 weeks before our flight, and it was certainly the correct way from the reaction of the people and the media build-up as to who would do what. That seemed to be the most appropriate way to do that. Neil made his famous statement of one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. When I was down on the surface after a few moments, I made the observation, magnificent desolation. Magnificence because of the human progress to build automobiles, railroads, airplanes, rockets, spacecraft, send people to the moon. What a magnificent achievement for humankind to have progressed that far. And yet, at the moon, it was a very desolate, lifeless surface, not changed in hundreds of thousands of years, very dry and not inviting or not hospitable. I was looking for some gesture of thanks for success. Being a military fighter pilot, I felt I would probably have the opportunity to salute the American flag when I got to the surface. But I felt that there was a more encompassing, perhaps, spiritual recognition, since most people on the earth have some concept of a higher power that has given us the abilities to progress, to learn, to relate with each other. And I felt that my involvement was with a Protestant church, so we didn't have room. If I was Catholic, we didn't have room to take a priest along with us, so I was allowed to serve myself communion. The question was, should I announce to the world that that was what I was doing? Now, my ego said yes, but my boss said no, and he was correct. We came in peace for all mankind, not just for Christians or one group of people. When that was accomplished, I was 1/2 the age that I am now, and my concepts of higher power have matured considerably since then, but I really don't think this is the place to go into higher concepts of the universe and its origin and what we as creatures play in that large universe and how we relate with each other in some spiritual way.
Agora nós vamos ter um intervalo, e após o intervalo, então vamos continuar a assistir esse depoimento.